Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I figured that I would just hop on real quick and talk about some things that have been on my heart and on my mind with the current state of our country. And if you're not from the United States, of course I mean the United States because that's where I reside. But I do know that some of you live in other areas that are not in the U.S. So, having said that, I just want to start out by saying that what's going on, I don't think, is necessarily a left or a right issue. And I know I've said this before. I think it is just a humanity issue. It's a human being issue. I don't understand how anyone, especially the leader of the free world, could be comfortable with people going hungry. This is supposed to be the greatest country in the world. So, having said that, no one should be going hungry here. Now, I've said it before, I do not condone people who abuse the system. I don't. And if you are able-bodied, of course you should work. I'm disabled and I still try to work as much as I can when I am feeling well. It is a battle for me. When I do work, I don't make a tremendous amount of money. I try to save some of it. I'm not able to save as much as I'd like to because my utilities have been so outrageous the past couple of months. Actually, probably for almost about a year between my gas and my electric. So there's that. But I don't want to digress too much. I just want to talk about just the thought of people going hungry. Now, there's a huge misconception among some who think that those who receive SNAP benefits and WIC benefits are those who are not working. Did you guys know that most of the families that receive SNAP, they are working families? They're called the working poor. Nobody wants to be in this position. No one does. Trust me. I have been lower income for most of my adult life, with a couple of glimpses of not being low income. And I can tell you that no one wants to have to struggle. There are choices that you have to make in your everyday life when you are low income that are just horrible, and you shouldn't have to make those choices. Choices between, do I buy groceries? Do I pay for my needed medication that sometimes is life-saving? And if you don't have these medications, they could put you in danger of losing your life even, or damaging your health further. Or do I pay utility? Do I put gas in my car? Do I pay my car insurance? A lot of people are not living high off the hog right now. I'm sure you'll see occasional videos where people have their hair done, where people have nails done, or what have you. But even that, do you guys realize that you can buy press-on nails, you can do your own nails, you can get nail wraps that look like a salon manicure, you can have, you could do your gel manicure at home if you wanted to. A lot of people are good at doing their hair. Some people have friends that are good and they might drop them a couple dollars or do a favor for them in exchange. Just because you're poor doesn't mean that you have to look like crap. I don't look that great right now because I'm just at home resting and cooking. But, can I look nice if I want to? Of course I can. I have cut my own bangs. Sometimes I've gone as long as 14 months without a haircut. And sometimes that just happens, and sometimes I will scrimp and I will save to get my hair colored if that's what I choose to do. But it really is the only thing that I choose to do for myself. But this isn't just about me, like I said, and I don't want to ramble on too long, but, a huge majority of SNAP recipients, they're families with children. They are single-parent families, the elderly, the disabled, veterans. When you look at the numbers, there are not a lot of people treating the system like it's thought to be. I'm all for cutting the fat, but you don't take away food from people who need it. You don't take away health care from people who need it. And people keep saying that the Democrats won't vote to, I guess, settle whatever bill is going on to fund, because they don't, the other side, sorry, I'm skipping all over my words, but the other side doesn't want illegal aliens to have insurance. It's not just that, though. It's funding for the ACA. The ACA is tremendously important, especially for those who are lower middle class and lower class. The reason being is because before that, I can speak from experience, a lot of people who are, straddling the line in between the cracks don't necessarily qualify for Medicaid, and they're not disabled, so they don't get Medicare, would have no way to be able to afford health insurance without it. And no, it is by no means a perfect program, and I can tell you that from experience as well. About 10-15 years ago, I was working 2 jobs and sometimes 3 jobs. And in order for me to get private insurance after my divorce, I was quoted, just not even for a great plan, without the ACA, something outrageous like $500 to $600, lowest being $400 a month for the premium, and that's still with copays and higher deductibles. Now, I couldn't do that. I didn't receive SNAP at that time. I haven't received SNAP a majority of my life, and if I did, it was never really a lot, except for during the pandemic. It was a decent amount, but I think that was for everyone. I was raising 2 small children. I had rent, full utilities, without any utility assistance help, car payment, insurance, all of that stuff, and always very frugal, but I could not handle another bill at that magnitude. That would be taking away from my rent, my children's roof. I've always had my older learning disabled sister with me, and her Social Security added to our income, but it's not a tremendous amount, guys. At that time she worked, but very, very part-time, and that wasn't a tremendous amount. So there was no way that I could pay that premium and then have to pay copays on top of it. So I went without health insurance for a number of years, probably 5 or 6 years. And of course, as luck would have it, this is when a lot of my health problems went into overdrive, but they went undiagnosed for quite a bit. Hypertension, I had some female issues, and I ended up needing a couple of surgeries. And without insurance, I had to rely on charity care, which took quite a long time to get approved in both cases. I'm not going to go too into the depths of the female surgeries, but I needed to have a uterine ablation, and then I had a partial hysterectomy a couple of months later because the first one didn't work to solve my problems. But if I had had affordable insurance, none of this stuff would have ever happened. Every time I needed to go to the doctor, I would have to either go to a clinic, and I would have to pay a pretty high payment there, even though it was a sliding scale. They thought that my income was so tremendous, which is ridiculous. And I'd have to find it in my budget for that. And if I was lucky, sometimes they would bill me and I could put it off, because there were weeks where I just didn't have very much left over after I paid bills and bought groceries and put gas in my car. So I would either have to go to the clinic, or if I was really in bad shape, I'd have to go to the emergency room, and then I'd get a huge bill from that, and I would apply for charity care for some of that, and that took forever to go through. And I know that there's a process, and I understand and respect it, but I needed life-saving surgery. The short of it is that I was basically bleeding to death, and I needed iron injections, I needed blood transfusions. At the end, before I had my hysterectomy, in like the 2 months before, I needed 3 blood transfusions. I was so sick, I don't even know how I managed to keep my head above water. My iron level was so low that they said when at the doctor's offices that they were surprised that I was still walking around. And then when you go to these types of clinics, it's not like you're in and out. You have to rearrange your whole day and your whole life just to be able to go. I was a single employee of my main job, so I couldn't just leave the office whenever I wanted to. I mean, like, it would take almost the whole day just to have a 20-minute doctor's appointment. It's not easy to be poor. It's not. And like I said, none of us choose it. But then when the ACA came into being, I was able to apply, and I did receive Medicaid. However, I did have to pay a small amount. It was like $95 or $96 a month, and that was a huge blessing for me. But had I had the access to these programs when my health problems were first starting to rear their ugly heads, I may not be disabled now. It's life-saving, guys. It's life-altering. It's important. And, you know, generations ago, many of our families immigrated from other countries. I don't necessarily like criminals and whatnot coming into the country, but not every person that comes here from another country is of that mindset. They're not all here trying to do something illegal. They're here to make a better life for their families, which is much like many of our ancestors did. And we could go on about that for a while too, can't we? Can you imagine how bad it must be for these folks to come here from their home country? For them to consider doing anything illegal? It's got to be pretty bad, guys. So where is your empathy? Yes, they should go about things in a legal manner, but I certainly can understand if they're under persecution or they're living somewhere that's dangerous, they may want to just up and leave and get here as best they can and do what they've got to do and figure out the rest later. There are a lot of immigrants who are here who are working towards citizenship, and if they're working and paying taxes, then they deserve to have the help that they need. You know, eventually, most of them will get up on their feet. I know that my ancestors did. Why do we have to be so racist? Why do we have to be so unkind? It's just so hurtful. Yes, I agree that funds should be spent on the citizens of this country before they are given to other countries. But there's plenty of sympathy for that. But not the folks who are here and the people who are trying to make their lives better who come from other countries. So if they're working here, they are helping to support our economy. They're paying taxes too. Why do we have to be like this? It's just, like I said, it's so hurtful. They deserve to live too and make a better life for their families, just like our ancestors did. So it's not just about getting insurance for illegal aliens. Oh, and so what's going to happen if folks don't have insurance is our emergency rooms are going to become overwhelmed. And that's going to delay access to those who critically need help. It's going to make healthcare premiums higher for those who can't pay. And care can't be refused to anyone who goes to the emergency room. So if you're thinking that, just don't. I can tell you from my own experience that you do not get treated the same no matter what anybody says. I have been sent home very sick, and then I've had to return within a couple of hours because I was so unwell. You don't have access to the treatments and the testing that you should have all the time, unless in a very rare instance a compassionate doctor feels for you and understands your plight. So that's going to happen. If there's no SNAP for November, which it's looking that there won't be, there's going to be an increase in crimes because people are going to do what they have to do. Food pantries will run short of supplies to supply the influx of people who are in need. And SNAP also fuels the economy. People will use their benefits, of course, to go into the stores, local and chain, mom and pop, what have you, and they buy food, products, etc. And without that, if no one's shopping, the businesses are going to suffer, and likely the economy as well. So think about all of this. It is just a domino effect. It's just shit running downhill. Sorry to be so blunt, you guys. And I am just so saddened by this. I can't stand to think of anyone in need going hungry. I can't. And even though I'm low income myself, I will do what I can to help. I'm actually afraid to go to the food pantries and the food store because I don't want to get jumped or hurt. Because you don't know what's possible, and we are a lower income area in this part of town that I live in, and there's an even lower town right next to us, lower income town. So it's a little frightening. Around us, there's wealthy folks, but, keep your eyes open and just be very vigilant. Be safe. But I encourage all of you, if you're having all these negative thoughts and selfish thoughts about those who are in need, to really do your research and have some compassion. This is not the America that I grew up in. And this is not how I was raised. I was raised to help everyone that needs it. Not be taken advantage of course, but to help those in need. Do unto others as you would have them do to you. Please, I have been on my knees lately praying for all of us. The state of our country is just sad. We're becoming a third world country. Please, people, practice kindness. Stop with the politics. It's not a left or right thing, it's a human thing. Food is a human right, and we should all be willing to help each other. No one should have to suffer. No one. So I'm going to end it there. I'm sending love to all of you. If any of you are in need, please call 211 to get resources in your area, and use Google to search for food banks and food pantries in your area. Be safe. Please learn how to be resourceful with what you're given. Best advice I can give you is to learn how to cook from scratch. There's plenty of YouTube channels like mine that can teach you how to make some inexpensive meals. I know some of you won't agree with me, and for that, I'm not going to apologize because I feel very strongly about what I have said. As always, I'm sending love from New Jersey. Please be well, my friends. See you next time.